Hey everyone, you're about to listen to podcast number 3. We got to talk to Erin Weidemann for this one. Erin is the founder of Truth Becomes Her, described as a global community that equips women to let go of fear and step into the unique leadership roles for which they are designed. She's the author of the Bible Bell series, which you might have seen on social media, or you might even have, which is a book series that's aimed at providing a Christian alternative to the influences that young girls are typically shown. They're super cool books. We got to talk about those. She's a 5-time cancer survivor, currently living in Montana, and we reached out to her because what she does is so similar to the path that Brooke was on, and really that we were both on, where she kind of left her career and went into online full-time Christian social media business. And so we talked about her books, her Bible Bell series, her journals. We talked about raising daughters. We talked about raising kids so that they love the Lord and stay in the church. We talked about business and entrepreneurship online. We talked about the future of Christian businesses and social media. It was a great conversation, and enjoy.
Just are so when we found you, and I've heard about Bible Bells. Obviously, when you don't have kids, you don't think about those things quite as much. But then we had a daughter, and we were like, crap, we need to start finding things that are appropriate for her and that are going to be, something that's going to be, which, she's still so young, but to find things that are on her level of understanding and like growing her heart for the gospel. And, how do you do that at different age levels? And when we saw your Bible Bells, I was like, wow, that is just like, what a tool, that you're providing for moms. So we just kind of want to know like about you and how you got started with this and why you feel so passionate about it. So
happy to share. Thank you guys for reaching out. And I'm excited to learn more about what you're doing, and just want to encourage you too, as you start out. Like, we got some very good advice long ago when we were like very green and quit our jobs and all of that. And just our dear friend now, she told us at the time, she just said, keep going.
Right.
And we say that often, because when you have like a win, keep going, like you'll be really excited and like built up. And then when it's just awful, just keep going. Like,
right.
It's been such a good idea. It's just been that advice has been so life-giving. My husband tattooed it on his arm. And we just say it often. It's such a simple thing, but I'm excited for what you guys are building, and it's really cool. So offline, we'll talk about how I can help and support you guys with what you're doing, because it's really important.
We love that. So I know that you do like lots of speaking. How did you get started into all of that with the, I know you have the Truth Becomes Her and Bible Bells. So how did you get started with those?
I mean, very long story. I will say it quickly. I grew up in church, walked away at 16, every mistake you could make in a 10-year period. At 26, I was working in finance, like very committed to making a lot of money and just living in a self-seeking way, and was diagnosed with cancer for the very first time. I battled it for 5 years, 5 different times. I'm now totally cancer-free, but that first diagnosis when I was 26 just like wrecked me as a human being. Yeah. And I remember I didn't even believe. I wasn't a believer. I wasn't walking with God, but I just remember asking, like, I don't know who, the universe, what am I supposed to be doing with my gifts? And like, who are my gifts for? And how am I supposed to create value in this world? And I'm not going to have any time to do what I was made to do. So what was I made to do? And I just felt, I know it was God speaking to me at that time. I just felt like he was saying, why are you not working with children? You have a special relationship with them. You know how to engage them. You are excited about school. I mean, there are all sorts of things that, like, the way God wired me and my unique personality and the way I'm gifted and talented and the interests that I have makes so much sense in the education space. So I was still undergoing treatment and surgeries and therapy at the time of my first diagnosis. And I just thought, let me just quit my job and I will enroll myself in a teacher credentialing program and get into the classroom. And I'm probably not going to live very long, but I'll just go and be with kids and teach them. And I love school, and I got a job teaching in high school, met my husband right in there, which is a very weird time to date someone when you're like knee deep and like a lot of medical issues and whatnot. But he just showed me how God pursues all of us. Like he was so faithful and just could see the vision in the future for our family that I could not see. So I'm grateful to him every day for just railroading me in the nicest way and just saying, no, like I'm going to be here and I'm going to walk this with you, and coming to doctor's appointments. And we had no idea I was going to be healed. But yeah, my time in the classroom, long story short, like I said, is what inspired the Bible Bells book series. I was working with mostly middle school kids and girls, mentoring them on Fridays and just coming home so angry about what they were going through. It was the same thing I struggled with. And we're both grown-up girls, like, the deal with beauty and insecurity and comparison, all of the crazy stuff that girls are facing today. It's the same and in a lot of ways worse than what we experienced.
Right.
And I just felt like, as someone who cares about kids, who was spending her time with them, pouring into them in the classroom, could we create something like years before a girl would ever walk through the door of a middle school? Could we develop her character? Could we identity train her to believe what God says about her? Could we help her understand like very abstract concepts like her own value and the purpose God gave her and what a calling is and beauty, God's way? Like, could we create something that would teach that, would give adults the tools they need to talk about this, give language around it? And honestly, that's how Bible Bells was born. We went to the Christian bookstore and we were like, where are the cool books for girls to learn about women of the Bible? And we could not find anything. We just found these like encyclopedia-ish books that kind of like, they all had, 40 women, and it was a page and a picture and like a third person narrative of, here are some facts about the woman. And there was just no way for a young, impressionable girl to care or be excited about the women of the Bible the way they are about Disney princesses. So like, all that to say, we just thought, gosh, girls today can name all the Disney princesses. They are obsessed with these characters. Why can we not do that and make something so high quality and so engaging and fun, but that is so scripturally accurate, that would be life-giving and applicable for their lives? Like, that's where it came from. So we got started. I had no experience writing children's books. I just liked children and liked words. So I went and started researching and reading the Bible and reading books about the women of the Bible and praying about who to include in the first series. And that's how the Herd series was born. It's 5 women from the Old Testament that can teach girls 5 positive character traits that they can stand on, all the way from prayer, patience, bravery, loyalty, to leadership, and what it looks like to be a leader in God's kingdom, and not in the loud, pushy, overbearing way that culture tells kids they need to be leaders.
Right. That's really exciting. It's I was looking through a lot of your stuff, and to just have that mindset of, instead of like Pocahontas or Cinderella or these girls that you like aspire to, grow up to be when you're a kid, because they're fun and it's fine. But to kind of shift your kids' mindset to, yeah, but like, look at these women who are real women. Like, these were real women who were doing gospel work. And these are the things they learned. And this is what we can learn from them. And these are the qualities that we want to see in ourselves that they exemplified. And I think that's just so cool to like put your kid in their shoes and say, like, you can be like this little girl, and like she can be like a, like a princess and a belle, and be somebody that you can actually look up to because they're real. And it's so much more meaningful. And that just like, you don't find that anywhere. And I just thought that was really, really amazing of you to do. And then I also saw that you did the journals with the moms and the kids. So what's the age group for those journals?
Yeah. So as far as like the Herd series and all of those, the first 5 books, devotional, mother-daughter journal, like pre-readers to early independent readers. So even girls like as young as 3 and 4 are reading the Bible Bells series. And as they grow and progress and they're, talking to their mom or their adult mentor or whatever adult is in their life that is committed to their own discipleship, and not just developing them as people, but pouring into their character and doing what you just said, which is leading them in light of the gospel, right? We're not just trying to raise good people, we're trying to raise effective people for the building of God's kingdom. Like, that's what excites me as a mom. So I always think about, okay, if I'm sitting down one-on-one, or if I've got girls in a group setting, like, what kinds of discussion questions, what kinds of activities, what kinds of prompts could we put in the journal that would invite that really rich back and forth exchange where she's sharing ideas, she's asking questions, but I, as the adult, am able to like lead her through this conversation and be able to have the framework that I need to approach these different topics. So just making it really accessible for even the youngest girls. I mean, even girls who, like my daughter wanted to write in that journal before she could even write. And so we'd choose a couple words at a time and she would practice, and then I would, she would verbalize her answer and then I would write it in for her and we date it, and then we can go back and it's sort of, it's like a running, almost a keepsake, right? That we can look back on and say, look at how we progressed through talking about the story of Ruth, or, talking about the story of Deborah and how she was a prophet and how, she stood up and like was able to lead Israel, like to victory in this battle where, even the commander of the army wasn't going to go unless she was going to go. Like there's all these neat entry points for girls. Like, again, how you said, having the example of the women that came before them. And that, I feel like what's fun in creating these resources is not just going, yes, we want like an engaging book, but really thinking strategically about life experiences and sitting across from kids at a table or on your couch or on your floor, and how you can interact, how a parent could pick up a book or pick up a resource and go, gosh, I don't have the Bible all figured out. Maybe I didn't even grow up in church, or maybe I'm new in my faith, or I have serious like reservations about my ability to teach and lead my own child. But I can pick this up and know someone had that in mind. It's easy to follow. It's bite-sized. It's not overwhelming. And it's something that's going to create like very high impact reach when I think about how I want to engage my children. So that's, I know when we create things, that's just the heart and soul behind what we're trying to do, because we're very aware, and I'm aware of that in my own journey, right? Of like, I did not have this cookie cutter Christian experience where I just, prayed to accept Christ at 4 years old and like loved him the whole way through. That is not what happened. And for most parents, we are dealing with a level of shame or guilt or past sin or trying to live the right way and being a good influence. So yeah, I think when we create things that's top of mind for our entire team.
And that's a big deal. I mean, I know personally, to me, I feel, well, you go into, I was saved when I was almost 20. So definitely didn't have like the typical story. And you go into marriage and you kind of get like your bearings on marriage, and then you have a kid and you're like, it's like everything is like new, and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. You're like leaving the hospital with this thing that you're supposed to keep alive and like teach to be a good person. And you're like, I don't know what the crap I'm supposed to say to you.
1000%.
So,
yeah.
You're so like taught when you're grown up to, about purity and about like, intentional dating and preparing for marriage, but then parenting hits you in the face and you're like, oh, nobody prepared me for this. I don't know what to do. And it's so intimidating and scary to think about, my daughter growing up and starting to have thoughts about things and being influenced by our culture, which is so anti-scripture, and being sure that, the both of us are taking control of the little narrative in her mind and teaching her like, this is probably what you're going to hear in the world, but this is what the Bible has to say. And this is why we follow the Bible and why it's so loving. And that is a scary thing to think about. So having these, even if it's just like these women in the Bible that your girls can look up to, just having some kind of like entryway point, I think, into the Bible for them, instead of just opening up, like a book of the Bible and saying, okay, let's talk about this book. Like, no, these are women that we can really pinpoint and you can look up to and kind of, think about her and play with toys and like, because I saw you had the toys too, like pretend about them. I just think that's such a crazy, awesome thing. And I'm really excited that we found you.
So you said you were saved initially at 26. Did you grow up totally away from the gospel, or did you kind of grow up in a home and just sort of say that's not for me?
I grew up in the church atmosphere. My parents and my sister and I all went to the same church school combo growing up. It never felt like a real relationship. It was just something we went out of the house and did as a way to check all the Christian boxes. And it just felt like I was living two lives. I would go home and be myself. There was no talk about Jesus or prayer, or there's no Bible at home. I mean, it was probably on a shelf somewhere in a closet. And so, no, I just didn't see anybody living and walking it out. And then as I got into my adolescent and teenage years, I just began to feel my value in things like academics and earning good grades and being really good at sports. And that served me really well to get me to college. I played softball and got a scholarship to play at a D1 school. Like, that was really impressive for a little while. And then when I graduated, like, the two pillars that I had built my identity on were just gone. And I was left sort of scrambling, as young adults do, right? Like, well, what am I meant to go out and do? And let's lay all that down in the pursuit of making money and acting in a way that is only self-serving. And thankfully, cancer was like the violent shove into God's reality that I needed to start asking some of those really hard life questions, like, what was I made to do, and who are my gifts for, and how do I actualize my talents and the way that I'm wired out in the world for the benefit of others and to shine the light on the Lord. I had never asked those questions before, so I'm really grateful that I went through something really hard. Grew up in church, saw the traditional side of it, did not feel any sort of meaningful relationship with Jesus at all, and wasn't modeled to me. Naturally fell away, went and made all the mistakes, and had to learn it the hard way, that walking with God, without God, is a different life, and it's the life that He did not have planned for you. So I'm super grateful now to have had everything come full circle, and to now be parenting, in light of what the gospel means and how do we practically live that out. As imperfect people, as people who didn't always follow Him, who doubted, who revolted, who rebelled, and when, life went sideways, and as it has for a lot of people. So I'm just super grateful that God wasn't done with me. And now I get to be used. I get to partner with Him in creativity and, write and make things that engage kids and get them excited about knowing who Jesus is and developing a deep relationship with Him. It's what I want for kids everywhere, but it's also what I want for my own kids, who I never thought I would even have. So I just blessed over here, but it was a windy, scary journey to get it. And it doesn't mean like everything's great either. Like life is filled with challenges, and growing a business is really hard. And as you guys start out, I mean, what you're trying to build and grow, like, you're probably trying to make something different that no one's done before, and you're paving a road that has not, you're trying to uncover what God is showing you. And it's like, it's fun and it's hard and it's challenging, and you're married and you're doing it together. Like, I get to work with my husband every day, and I love it most of the time. I love it all the time.
It gets a little crazy.
Like, wow, you married your best friend, right? Like, and people are like, how do you work with your husband? I'm like, listen, like, I love him. He's my favorite person. So it's not annoying. Sometimes it's annoying, but like it's tiny. It's a tiny bit annoying. But most of the time it's wonderful. Like, God partnered you in life and marriage, and work is another cool layer of that. And you get to watch your husband like operate in his gifts, and he gets to watch me like be awesome at things that he's not awesome at. It's just cool.
We love
and
it.
It's all
yeah.
And it's like, it affects your family and affects your parenting. It's all kind of intertwined, and we have good family rhythms, I feel like. But we've learned to do that because we've gone from like, we're a startup, let's quit our jobs, let's flush a retirement account to pay for things. Okay, and then, does this business feed our family? Well, not really. So let's take some weird jobs until it gets established. And now we've watched God like multiply things 700 times over, where the first, the simple small beginnings are hard and no one wants to do them, but the payoff is rich, and you get to partner with the Lord to do it. And life is a fun, daring adventure. It's cool to be a part of it.
Yeah. For us, we were kind of at a point where we really were, she was really just supporting the family completely while we were both still working. And then she wasn't working, and she was home with the baby, which was great. And so when we stepped away, it was really, we were doing pretty well, and we weren't worried about a whole lot, but it was also totally beauty and hair and makeup and just all the things that she was selling for other companies, which there's nothing wrong with those companies or those products.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and you could really see it playing on her heart,
to where it was like, what are we talking about? If I'm not talking about Jesus all the time, if I'm not speaking the truth all the time, like how much is enough?
Right.
Am I really, responding to the call? Meanwhile, at the same time, it's not like it was ever hidden and people didn't know that we were a Christian couple and she was a Christian person. But, there's also that risk that comes with saying, hi, I'm openly Christian. These are my open beliefs. I believe everything the Bible says, especially as each year goes on and the culture seems to get a little bit crazier and just split off a little bit farther. And so, for us, it almost feels like we're starting the startup thing again as of last month.
Even though we've been doing it for 5 years.
We've been doing it for 5 years, but this new thing is definitely not feeding the family yet. And, we're definitely praying that it will. And it's exciting to get up every day and figure out where the money's going to come from and work together. As far as I know, she's really into her coworker. So there's definitely those days where you're like, I could just work for someone else and they would just pay me and I wouldn't have to worry about it. But
and you wouldn't have to think about, crap, what am I going to do today? But
no, or like if my wifely tone, like, am I harassing them if it's in the workplace environment? Like, are we just having an argument?
I don't know.
No.
It was a weird shift, like he was saying. And like you said earlier, with the way that girls view themselves now. You've got Photoshop and everybody's like editing their pictures and looks so perfect. And, you look at that and it's such a comparison game, and taking what was a beauty brand and completely saying 180-degree shift, no conviction. Like, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. What is my purpose? Is my purpose is it inward? Am I just in it for the money? Like, I have this platform that I've built, but what am I doing with it eternally? And I felt so convicted about that, even though what I was doing was wholesome and fine. But I don't know. I feel like after we had Lila, which was in 2020, in the midst of the pandemic.
Me too. I get it.
It was a wild ride, but I don't know. We just had her and I just looked at her and I was like, what am I doing? What is she going to see with this beauty brand? Is she going to see like, oh, mom is known for like her like makeup and hair, like associating me with that? Or is she associating with me like, yeah, mom gets on there and talks about Jesus? Like, what is that? What is she going to see in me? And so in April or May of this year, we just completely shifted, and it does feel like a restart, even though we have this big audience. We're finding a new audience, and it just feels like we're doing what God wants us to do at this point, even though it's been a little financially difficult. But I think it's just important to step on the internet right now and just say, this is what I believe, and I'm not going to stray from it, and I'm not going to water down the gospel. This is what it is. And I'm really interested to hear, like, do you have any like advice for, I still feel like a new mom with an 18-month-old. For, were you implementing anything at like young ages to, my daughter, she's just now talking and saying words, and she's understanding what we're saying. Like, how do you start implementing like scripture and gospel into them at such a young age?
That's such a good question. And there's no right or wrong way to do that, right? God sees your heart and wants to partner with you in it. And only you can see your home. And when you think about creating a culture where faith can flourish inside your home, part of that has to do with atmosphere. Part of that has to do with the safety of your home. Like, are you cultivating a space for your children to think and feel deeply, where the Holy Spirit is invited in? He is in your midst. One of the ways that we did that early on when our first baby was toddling, and she's 7 now, and she's definitely taken more of an active role in what I'm about to share, is this idea of like landing on your family's values. And we say, okay, we're Bible believing, we are faith-filled people. Like, what are your family's values? And then like getting those ideated and out on paper so you can see them, pray over them, agree on them as a couple, and then invite your children into that space to understand, well, this is what our family is about. This is these are the words that encapsulate who we are as a family. We can't be everything, but certainly there are probably 4 or 5 or 6 very meaningful values words that you feel really encompasses your life's mission, your marriage, the goals that you set your family toward. Some of those words for our family are peace and flexibility and perseverance and evangelism. I mean, these are the whole of what make our family go. We can't be all things to everybody, but certainly I can look at my home and say, okay, well, if peace is something I value and we value as a family team, does our home reflect what we say we value? So for example, like in our home, I was very convicted because what am I? I'm a bubbly, energetic, excited, emotional person, as is my husband. So when we get heated or we don't see eye to eye on something, the fumes come out and the volume goes up. And I was really convicted in early seasons of motherhood going, if peace is something that we say we value, what would give cause for anybody to raise their voice in this house, which would adjust in a negative way the peace of this home? So we decided as a family, nobody raises their voice here. And if someone raises their voice, any member of the family is allowed and encouraged to stop the conversation and say, wait a second, no, our home is a home of peace. And we pray right through that situation and we bring it back to its peaceful state before we move forward in whatever conversation. If we can't do that, we take time away, but we maintain the culture of our home as something that reflects what we say we value. And it has really served us in our marriage, and it's really served us in our parenting, you know, having these little ears and eyes open all the time, watching your every move. You know, what are the things that you're prioritizing? And if you say one thing, but it looks a different way, or it's happening in a way that's not consistent with what you said, there's going to be a disconnect with your children, and with you. So I feel like, I mean, for us, like flexibility is another one. Like plans change all the time. You pivoted your business like not long ago, and that was not something you expected to do. Like I didn't expect to quit my teaching job and travel around and be on the radio. Like who knew that any of these weird things would happen? Like who knows? It's so funny. I majored in broadcast journalism at school and was like, well, I'm never going to use this degree. And now I'm on the radio.
Here we go.
Isn't that funny? All that to say though, right? Like we're very flexible as a family. So when plans change and someone throws a tantrum, we parent toward that. We say, no, hold on a second. We're a family that values flexibility. We want to be open, ready for change. When God pivots us or sends us in a different direction, we want to be nimble. We want to be agile. We want to be ready to make those quick, and, you know, those decisions don't need to be so hard because we're a family that values flexibility. And we want to be there without hesitation to say yes to the new and different thing God is calling us to. So I would encourage you guys, just even, you know, as you're more established in your marriage, but in this new season of parenting, to just say, hey, dude, what are our family values? Like, let's write those down and then let's parent toward what we say we value.
Right.
It's just created a lot of rich conversations in our relationship, and it's added a deeper level to like what we do in business and how that affects our parenting and how we talk to each other and, you know, everything, because it's all intertwined.
Yeah. And if your 7-year-old can call you out, you think twice about what you're about to say.
Oh, and people are like, don't give her all that authority. I'm like, wait a second, right? If I'm accountable to the other people, like the other, I honor the members of this household. And if I have a blind spot about my own behaviors, or I, you know, am not doing what our family has said we value, like what ego of mine would stand in the way of somebody saying in love, hey, we've agreed we don't yell here. We've agreed that we don't, you know, I mean, it's something stupid like we removed all of the battery operated toys in our house because they go off without being prompted. Sometimes like these toys, if they just stay on, they'll just make these noises or light up or whatever. And it affects the vibe in your house. If our home is peaceful, I don't want to hear like dings and pops and, you know, all kinds of weird, like it just changes the space. So stupid things like that, I think are really helpful.
I love that. I don't think I've ever been given parenting advice that wasn't like things that you do in the moment. Like or even things that are focusing like on your marriage, which is like what you reflect in your marriage is like your like responses to each other and how you talk to each other. Like, why would you expect your kids not to react and respond the same way to you? You know, if you're being sassy,
Right.
then where are they learning that
every
from?
day of my life, I'm working on that every day.
Which I will say, my 18-month-old, I don't know where she's getting the sass from. It's just like, and God-given, I guess.
I know where.
It comes from deep inside. And Nick's like, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where she's getting at.
I guess hopefully the Lord has got big things for her because she's got a big personality.
Sure, her and Brittany will get along.
Do you get any like hate online for what you stand for? I feel like it's so anti like feminism, and
sometimes I feel like I get, it is a little anti-feminism, or I don't know, I feel like sometimes there's that masculine air of like, well, wives are supposed to submit to their husbands, but that means we're supposed to submit to every man that would tell us something on the internet. Where I feel like in this season, God's just really saying, like, dive into my word. What do I say about all of these issues, and what have I called you to? You know, and I think, at least for me, like for so long, and I watch, you know, young adults and, you know, and more established adults struggle with this all the time. Like, your calling is not your career, and your purpose, like, these are words that are thrown around all the time, but your purpose does not equate to your profession. And just because I'm out speaking and sharing and talking about my testimony and talking about being healed from cancer, and, you know, sometimes I stand on a stage to do that and teach, you know, men and women, and sometimes I talk to, you know, teenage boys and teenage girls. Like, there are a lot of different people that God has me talking to, and I just try to be faithful to those opportunities, even when I get hate about them. I just try to remember what He's called me to. He's called me to engage people with the gospel,
right.
and the thing He values most is people. So if I can make every decision, whether it's in my marriage or as a parent or in my business, thinking about how the decision contributes to the winning of souls or the making of disciples, I know that's going to please God, and God sees my heart about it. So if I just keep His ultimate calling, which is the Great Commission, at the forefront of every decision that I made and top of mind for every choice that comes up and every challenge I face, I'm going to get to the end of my life and give the account that the Bible says I am going to give right after that first judgment. We're going to have a conversation with Jesus about how life went and what we did when we were in the body. And I want that conversation to be a life-giving, meaningful conversation where Jesus said, you got what I was trying to do with people. And you weren't afraid to share your story, and you weren't afraid to be vulnerable, and you weren't afraid to share the gospel, and you weren't afraid to allow your business to fund ministry. You understood that the success of your business was a tool to invest in the kingdom and to getting people into heaven.
Right.
Like, that's what excites me about being an entrepreneur. That's what excites me about making money and having a successful business. It's because I can reallocate those funds as they come in just as easily they can go out to invest in the kingdom and the building of God's kingdom.
Right.
And then I look forward with like anticipation. There's work to be done, obviously, but then I don't have this like, you know, worrisome feeling about the conversation I'm going to have at the end, because we can look at our assets and go, okay, we have a home. How can this home right now be a kingdom performing asset? What can we do here that's making disciples? What can we do here that could potentially win a soul? And let's do those things.
Right.
No matter if we live in a bitty apartment. When we started, we lived in an 800 square foot condo where we couldn't even have books shipped to. We had to have them shipped to our friend's garage. So we started our business not even in our own garage, in someone else's garage. But that was the point. Like we would go over and get boxes in the middle of the night and like, you know, package them up like literally inside envelopes, like one book at a time. I think we sold $17,000 worth of books that first year. And it was literally like, we had a website and then mostly me at MOPS groups, like going to have quiche and just standing up and sharing with moms for 40 minutes and being like, would you like to buy this one book? We have many of one book. And now, you know, we're 13 books in. We have God's blessed it over 5-6 years, and there's more. And it's now like a multi-million-dollar company, but it's not he just wants to see us being faithful with whatever's in front of us.
Right.
And as we show devotion, you know, it's just like parenting. Like, you're going to give your child more responsibility when they show you that they can handle it. Right.
Right.
That's what good parents do. And our Father does the same thing. He's incentivized us to live for him and share the gospel and make decisions based on, well, what's the return on this investment in terms of kingdom, right? If God's our investor and he's given us time and he's given us talents and treasure and opportunities and a personality like no one has, are we giving him a good return on his investment? Like, I don't know. That's how I aim to live. It's why I like coaching women so much now, because I get to coach like female entrepreneurs and people that have started businesses and they're kingdom minded. And I like talking about this stuff because I've been able to live it out and watch what God can do when we create margin and we're obedient, we don't hesitate, and we're not so averse to risk and danger that it keeps us from doing the things he's said to do.
Right. Oh, I like that. And I was telling Nick the other day too, you know, once again, going from the beauty community to faith it's so weird because we've been reaching out to people to see if they'll be on our podcast. And I was telling Nick, I was like, man, like the response is so different. You know, when I was trying to collaborate with people in the beauty world, it was just so, you know, how many followers do you have? How much money can you make me? It was just so like inward, selfish. And just the experiences that we've already had with other believers who have these massive platforms, and you think to yourself when you send the email, you're like, oh, they're never going to respond. But then you get a response, and it's just, there's a different mindset in the business world of believers, because you're right, we are doing our best to not look at monetary success and having beautiful things and having this like big glamorous appearance online and all these followers. Like, we want to connect with other believers who are truly scripturally based, who aren't going to give up on that and who aren't going to sell out to the culture that wants them to sell out. And they're going to connect with us because not, you know, for a business opportunity, but because we want to connect and grow the gospel. Like, how can I promote your books to moms, you know, who need these resources? Like, how can you promote a community that wants to pay Christians to make things that are straight from the Bible? And that is just the change in the way that, you know, our conversations have gone with people like you. Is just refreshing. And I'm really excited to see what God does with this and the connections that we get to make, because it's different. And you can really tell when somebody is the real deal. And that's exciting. It's exciting.
Well, yeah, I mean, and just to encourage you guys too, like I've always enjoyed, and I haven't really understood it until probably like the second half of our journey, like the whole point of like networking and relationship building and like figuring out how to build your business. There's just this more important goal of like, maybe God has like brought these people into your space for a particular reason that doesn't have to do necessarily with like bolstering your business, even in the short term. Like, he's brought us people and we've been like, I wonder why God connected us with these people. And then like years later, it's a business connection. Or, you know, for just a season, maybe it's to encourage somebody because they're on a path to creating something new, or their like adventure looks a lot different and you're meant to pour into them. And it's like, I think just the modern day Christian, even right down to finding a church, it's like, let me walk into the church building and see how this place can serve me best. Where Christ's way was so drastically different. His way was all about like coming in and being of service first, and approaching people in radical generosity. There's no ego in, well, what are you doing? And let's find out if there's crossover, sure. But like, what are you doing? And am I about that? And can I, you know, be in your corner and help bolster the efforts that you have? All, you know, and even in, you know, in the business space, the Christian business space, it's a lot of people that are building these like, you know, freestanding towers and seeing how high up they can get it. Where it's like, when we think about a rising tide and how it raises all ships, and we're all, you know, surveying the landscape and looking at how we can build these things and grow our platform and reach more people and engage people in all of it, right? When God brings us certain people in a season, it usually is multi-layered, But first and foremost, it's like to encourage each other in the fight and to champion each other forward. And it's not this competition, and it's not this like scarcity mentality of like, well, if they are successful, that's going to like be at the expense of my personal business. Like, what a lie from the pit of hell. So all that to say, like, I love hearing about pivots and starting new things and reaching out, cold emailing people and being like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Like, that's what I did at the beginning. I was a teacher. I had zero connection, question, anything. You know, I was a public school teacher, racing home on coffee breaks to interview Christine Kane and Lisa Bevere because I reached out, was like, you don't know me, love what you're saying, you're speaking my heart song. Like, you come on and talk about yourself for 25 minutes, and they all said yes. And it was like, you know, this is how you build lasting friendships, and this is how you look at what people are doing and keep it fun and interesting, but always like with the gospel in mind and going, where are the people that are doing that they're like paying attention to what God's doing in the world and like long for the life event following and lifting up his work and like amplifying his message out in the world. That's what's exciting about how I want to spend my time as an entrepreneur and how we're trying to raise kids who like care about that first.
Right.
So cool. When did you, in that kind of vein, when did you feel like you knew you had made the right choice in kind of leaving all of the, obviously you had a big life event that kind of sent you in a new path, but then it seems like you kind of went on a whole nother pivot as far as writing the books and deciding this is going to be the thing that I do. Was there a moment when you felt like, you know, the doors finally sort of crashed open and you felt like this is where I'm supposed to be? Or were you confident from the very beginning? Or
great question. So I will tell that story if you guys have time. So we, right after we produced 3,000 copies of the first book in the Herd series, the Hannah book, we like scraped as much money together as we could. We were like, with 3,000 felt like so many books, and now we sold so many books. It's just weird where we were like, this is just, we have to just figure out how to get these books here and how we're going to sell them. We got invited, it was totally the Lord, to the Azusa Now prayer revival at the LA Coliseum. We had no business being there. We were the only non-food vendor. And then they had this random book table with like me as the author and my husband, and it's pouring rain, and we're there for 18 hours. And we're like, this cannot be the way that we're going to sell these books, but let's just go and be faithful to the opportunity. And so we go, and no one knows who we are. And we're just like, look, it's, you know, like Disney meets Dora and Women of the Bible. And it's going to be so exciting. They're like, yes, where are the rest of the books? And we're like, well, we have this one, because that's all we could make at the beginning. And so I am there, you know, talking to people as they come up, and someone comes up and his name is Mark. And he just says, hey, I'm Mark from Michigan. I would love to pray for you. God, you know, has been ministering to me and telling me that this next generation of kids is going to be saved through books. So could I just pray for you for a minute? Oh. And I was like, sure. And he pulled me to the side. He prayed for just a couple of minutes, and then he left. He came back to talk to Brent a little while later, but we didn't really see him again. I know they exchanged business cards. And then 3 weeks after that event, we're in the backyard. My little 1-year-old daughter, Rooney, is sleeping during nap time. So we're like, we could have a business meeting. And we're in the backyard having a business meeting, as you do. And Brent goes, hey, you know, I've already quit my job, and it just feels like this is never going to get off the ground. Like, you have to finish this book series, and you need to go out and share your story. I just like don't see a pathway forward. This business needs you, and I think you need to quit your job. And I went, babe, I am like a cancer survivor. I told the Lord, like I gave my life to the Lord, and I told him I would be a teacher. Like, he told me to be a teacher. I am supposed to be in the classroom. I can't just like piece out of my teaching job. Like, I need to do what God told me to do. If that's what I'm supposed to do, I need like a violent sign from the Lord. Like, I need the dove with the clouds to open. Like, I need a dove, like something like that. I need a huge, like, this is what you're supposed to do, Aaron. It's okay. Never mind that we're like living in San Diego on my teacher salary, and we're barely scraping by, and we have a 1-year-old. I just was like, I need nothing. As a mom, I will go without. That baby needs diapers and food. And like, how are we going to, I couldn't see it. Right. And so he goes, well, you should just pray about that. And I was like, I'll pray about it. I'm gonna pray about it right now. And hold my hand. And so I prayed, and I remember praying, I prayed out loud. Lord, I will be faithful. If I'm supposed to quit my job, I need a sign. I need a release from teaching. I need to know that like you are going to financially keep this family afloat. Like we're already living on my salary. I know I'm not supposed to trust the amount of money in the bank. I'm supposed to trust you. Help me to do that. Please show me. I need a sign. Amen. And it was 3 hours later, maybe we're sitting at the dinner table, and my husband, because he's raging ADD, he cannot sit still. He gets up from the dinner table and he's like, I didn't check the mail. And he goes to check the mail and he comes back with a letter and he is sobbing. And the letter is from Mark from Michigan. And it says, hey, Aaron and Brent, God encouraged me to reach back out to you guys. He is weaving a web of people across this country who are boldly taking risks to build his kingdom. You guys are a part of that web. I don't know what short-term financial decisions you need to make, but I just know that God is going to be faithful to see this through. Here's a check for $10,000. I want to take care of all your bills for the next few months. Just whatever decisions you're trying to make, I need you to know that God is with you. I'll cry. That letter is hanging in our office. You guys, it was a Saturday in May, and I went, oh my gosh, I told God I would quit my job if I got a sign. I was like, that's totally, that letter was already in the mailbox when I prayed that prayer. I prayed until like 3:00 in the afternoon. The mail guy had already come. I just think preemptively, and when I look back on it now, it's not about the money. It's about the fact that God knows your heart and he knows exactly what stage you're supposed to be at. And he can use anybody at any time in any way to further his plan. And if you just submit and let go and surrender and know that he's going to sustain you, he is going to sustain you. And like, I quit my job. That whole next summer, I just spent cold calling churches. I was like, how are we going to eat? Maybe I can go speak at some moms groups, and they'll, and they would pay me like $50, and then we'd sell like a couple $100 worth of books. And literally that's how we lived for months afterwards, until randomly, like we negotiated a speakership with K-Love and Air One Radio, where I got to travel around and speak to kids all over the world inside schools, like, or all over the country. I wouldn't have been open to that opportunity if I would have been teaching a full-time, full-time in the classroom anymore. So it's been interesting to watch God unfold these different opportunities, just like, because we couldn't see a financial safety net that we needed. Like, he's our safety net. So we just have to let go and trust that he's going to do it, and it's going to look weird and messy, and it's not going to be comfortable, but he's faithful.
That's crazy. God said, okay, if you're going to pray this prayer, you better go check your mailbox. You better keep that promise.
Right.
That is wild.
It was nuts. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is like you can't walk away from that.
Yeah, no, that's the dove.
That's the flashing light that says, okay, go on, do it. That's a crazy story.
Yeah, so cool. Well, we're in that initial phase, and God's been faithful so far. And I was just thinking in church this last week about when Sarah was told that, or when Abraham was told that there was going to be a baby in a great nation, and Sarah was in the other room, and she kind of laughs. She actually, I guess she literally laughed. And then God says to Abraham, like, so why is Sarah laughing right now? And then Sarah comes in and she's like, I didn't laugh. And God's like, no, but you did laugh. And then I'm thinking, like, who laughs? Like, why would you laugh at God himself is literally telling you this is going to happen? And then I'd go home and I'm like, well, how are we going to pay these bills? And it's just like
the same.
I got you, like God is in control. I'm your sustenance. Okay. But how are we going to pay these bills? Right. So it's just like coming to that same sort of conclusion. It's just like, here I am laughing because we need to figure out how to get money. Right. Like, do we need to figure out how to get money, or do we need to trust in the Lord and keep moving forward? And so cool. Love that. So I know, another slight pivot. I know you went to Penn State. Read that we have a lot of family members who actually went to Penn State. I'm from the Western PA area. So are you still rooting for the Lions, or have you switched allegiances to someone from California or Montana?
Oh, how dare you? No, Brent also went to Penn State. So
that's a double.
didn't go there at the same time, and we met at an alumni event like in California, 3,000 miles away. So all that to say, like, God/Penn State brought us together, like in that order. So no, it's all Penn State all the time over here, except Rooney like thinks it's funny to root against them, which is hilarious because her grandpa and grandma used to work there. They're retired now, but they used to work for the university. So they still live in State College. So we totally get to go back and like watch football games and be on campus. And like, I love going there still. Yeah. So we're very much like heart and soul Penn State family for sure. All of us.
Yeah. We moved to Pittsburgh when we first got married, and Brooke actually went to school at Pitt, unfortunately. So we had that little
this is going well a second ago.
She's repented. So
I've repented.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Fully healed, transformed in Jesus' name. Love it.
That's just the power of Christ there. So
you're in good company. That's right. That's right. Exercised all those demons.
So yeah, I guess that's it for, unless you have something else you want to ask about, or
I don't think so. I'm just so thankful that you took the time to talk to us and tell us your story, and hopefully encourage people that are listening that are maybe also feeling the call to quit their very stable jobs that they went to college for and pursue the gospel. I feel like he's calling more and more people to be a little bold and do some crazy things. And we hopefully in some way want to encourage people and help people in whatever way we can in that.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, I love what you guys are doing, and however I can be a support to you, if you need prayer or just encouragement. We were super blessed like early on in our journey. And even though you pivoted now and like you're trying to build this new and different thing, like there are just people that come into your sphere that are to encourage you and to guide you and support you in like whatever way I can do that. I'm just really excited to have the opportunity to share with you guys today, and just love hearing about what you're doing. So thank you for what you're doing too.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we hope to maybe do this sometime again, and hope you get through this storm. Well, it was so nice to meet you. Have a great day.
Good to meet you too. Thanks, you guys.
Bye.